Chapter 21, Leverage Over a Need. Someone might use your needs against you. What is a need? If you are thinking of food, water, and shelter, you are on the right track. Abraham Maslow was an American psychologist who believed we had a hierarchy of needs. On the bottom level, you have your physiological needs like food, water, sleep, and sex. The next level is your need for safety. The third level is your need for love and belonging. The fourth level is your need for esteem and respect from others. The highest level of need was your need to self-actualize. Maslow believed that very few people ever got to the point where they could worry about the highest level of need. Most of the time we are all scurrying around trying to satisfy all of the other levels. Though it isn't perfectly set in stone, it appears that humans focus on just one level of the hierarchy at a time. Imagine you are at a beach. You are having a good time, and you go out for a swim. Someone much larger than you swims out next to you. You don't know who they are, but before you can ask them anything, they shove your head under water. You struggle to get your head above water. They keep your head under water. What do? Suddenly, any thoughts about filing your taxes or doing the laundry gets thrown out the window. The entirety of your consciousness becomes focused on one singular purpose. You need air. You always needed air to live, but your motivation to get air has never been greater. Maslow talks about this in his original essay on the theory of human motivation. When a need is satisfied, the motivation for that need completely disappears. A new motivation will arise to take its place. Think about what you are motivated to do right now. Are you worried about money? Money is usually tied into the need of security. Money equals resources in our culture. Going without money is tantamount to dying on a psychological level. Think about your need for acceptance from others. When you were a teenager, did you ever see one of your peers get embarrassed and say something like, "I wish I could just die right now"? They probably weren't lying about that feeling. No matter what need isn't being satisfied, there is something every part of the hierarchy has in common. Not satisfying a need releases cortisol in your body. In small doses, cortisol is just stressful. It's a natural response to the day-to-day pressures we are going to feel. When enough cortisol gets released into your body, there is one message that is sending to you loud and clear. You are going to die. That doesn't mean that you are going to die. It just means that your body truly believes it. Think about how we evolved. If a predator showed up to threaten our security, we may die. If we didn't secure enough resources, we may die. If we didn't get acceptance from others, they may throw us out of the tribe, and you may die. Our physiology never had time to update itself to our current culture and technology. Quite frankly, it is just a whole lot harder to get killed today than it was in the past. We have a different set of problems beyond just securing resources and satisfying the tribe. A need is not just confined to something that keeps you alive. Just because you don't self-actualize and be the best that you can be doesn't mean that you are going to drop dead. But for those who are wrestling with their self-actualization, they may feel anxious, stuck in a rut, or just plain terrible because they aren't taking a step forward to grow. With this in mind, I propose a more precise definition for what a need is. A need is something that frees up psychic energy when it is satisfied. Psychic energy lets you make decisions. Decisions let you be an artist. Art changes consciousness. Consciousness changes the world. Satisfying needs is something I think is very important. There is another layer of needs that should be addressed. By my definition, a drug addict getting their drug fix is satisfying a need. This is true in the sense that it frees up psychic energy temporarily, but the motivation to fulfill that need will come back. And when it does, it will take all of your precious energy away and divert it much in the same way that it would be diverted with a person holding your head underwater. Going back to what Bruning said in chapter 16, you can overcome these habits. You just have to endure your body telling you that the world is ending for about 45 days straight. You may or may not believe the 45-day rule. The exact time period that you need to overcome a habit could vary from person to person. What is important is the idea that there are some needs that you have that may not be serving your best interests. Bruning spoke of a habit that her mother had about conserving as much food as possible. Imagine scraping every last bit of jelly out of a jelly jar just to make sure you have that extra tablespoon of jelly. Her mother grew up in the Great Depression era, where such a habit actually improved your odds of survival. Even though the situation has changed, she couldn't drop the habit. I know a person who has developed a sense of learned helplessness. Their parents always told them that they couldn't achieve anything in their life. Now it is part of their identity. To think anything other than that is stressful and uncomfortable. We form these ways of thinking that don't necessarily benefit us. We all do this. I do this. Honestly evaluating what habits truly serve you and going against your own physiology to try and break the mold is not an easy task. That requires discernment, focus, determination, and the physical energy to follow through with it. Now you know that we have needs in Maslow's hierarchy, and beyond the hierarchy. If you know this, someone else knows this. If someone else knows that other people have needs that go unfulfilled, then they know that there is a market with a demand and a possible vacuum of supply. Just look at commercials. It doesn't take long to see how many of them try and appeal to the unfulfilled needs of love and respect from others. I think this is self-evident, so I'm not going to belabor the point. Scams work off of this logic too. I spent 3 years guarding U.S. embassies overseas. One of the threats I was trained to protect against was intelligence threats. One of the most basic tactics used was something called the honeypot technique. The idea here is that an attractive man or woman would attempt to seduce someone in order to extract information. 99% of the time, it would never work. Everyone that I worked with would probably laugh at such a direct strategy. Why would you tell them anything? But every once in a while, you would get someone who would cave. They may have an extreme need of acceptance and love that never got fulfilled. Rationality gets thrown out the window when we are highly motivated to fulfill a basic need. Remember, we think we are dying, and we need to act now. When the honeypot technique works, it is well worth the trouble from the perspective of the intelligence threat. They knew that it wouldn't work most of the time, but they also knew the basic psychology of needs. They were able to leverage those needs in order to gain power over their opponent. If you control the outcome of someone's need being fulfilled, you control the person. This is quite possibly the most common political method of exercising control. Controlling key energy supplies can decide the outcome of wars. Certain people may leverage needs of love and acceptance in abusive relationships. If someone pointed a gun at my head, I'd probably do what they say so I could fulfill my need for security. There is one exception to the rule of leveraging the needs of others to gain power. If the person being controlled no longer fears death or chooses to overcome their fear of death through rationalization, then the leverage disappears. This is how revolutions start. The people revolting may know full well that they run a great risk of hazard to themselves when they revolt, but they may feel backed into a corner. One of the most important strategies that Sun Tzu discusses in The Art of War is how you should always leave your opponent a way out. This accomplishes two things. First, your opponent has a hope of escape and will probably choose the way out. This makes their actions predictable, which makes it easier to develop a counter-strategy for their next move. Second, you decrease the probability of exciting the enemy in a way that focuses and strengthens them. Backing an animal into a corner with no way out only gives them one option, and they know it. The animal has to go through you. You may beat the animal, but not without taking damage yourself. Or worse, the animal might have the determination it needed to take you down altogether. Giving your opponent options can create uncertainty. On the other hand, certainty can foster resolve. If people feel too oppressed and they have no way out, they will revolt. Understanding the methodical way that we meet our needs sheds light onto many of our behaviors. If you find someone in your life who you just don't understand, try asking yourself the question, what need are they trying to satisfy? People are going to do what they need to do far before they do what they want to do. This can help bridge the gap in communication to decrease poor judgment while increasing understanding of others. One area of study that can help us understand how we make decisions is the branch of mathematics known as game theory.